Hello, good morning, what's new? Welcome to another Motivational Monday, where every Monday I try to say something nice. Today we're going to talk about the power of being alone. First, I want to tell you a story. So, one of my fondest memories is when my mom took us to a local bookstore and told us that we could get any book that we wanted. The only stipulation was that after dinner, we had to spend an hour reading together. After that hour, you could do whatever you want. You could continue to read, you could go play with your toys, you could watch TV, whatever you wanted to do. But for an hour, we were going to read. This was heaven for me. That is exactly what I wanted. I wanted that warmth of my family surrounding me, but I wanted the freedom to escape into whatever world I was going to get into in my book. I remember the book that I chose was Tuesdays with Morrie. Now, if you remember, Tuesdays with Morrie is about an elderly gentleman named Morrie, who used to be a college professor, and one of his former students, Mitch, who is a sports writer, I believe. And he's a go, go, go kind of guy. And he's having problems in his marriage, he's having problems at work, etc., etc., etc. Mitch decides that he wants to interview Morrie for a book, and that's what we get. That's Tuesdays with Morrie. It is Mitch talking to Morrie. One of the stories that I remember most clearly is the first Tuesday when they talk about the world. In this one, Morrie comes into the classroom. Mitch is sitting, he's a student in the classroom. Morrie comes in and for 15 minutes just sits in silence. And during this time, the class becomes uncomfortable. They begin whispering to each other, or shuffling papers, or scooting desks just to create noise so it's less deafening, this quiet. And after 15 minutes, Morrie gets up and says, why is quiet so uncomfortable? Why do we need to fill the space? Why do we need to keep talking? That was profound to me. Why do we have to fill the space? Why do we? Why can't we just be quiet? Cut to a few years later, I'm at a bookstore and I see a book by Susan Cain called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And it reminded me of that first Tuesday when they talked about the world and the uncomfortableness of quietness. It reminded me that we live in a world where being quiet or being introverted and being alone is deemed wrong, that we should all aspire to be more outgoing, more extroverted. And so a lot of introverts, including myself, were trying to pass as an extrovert and forgetting how great we were as introverts. I was denying myself who I was by passing as an extrovert. I wanted to be artistic and creative. So I became a drag queen. I was trying to prove to myself that I could be assertive and I could be bold. I could be charismatic. I wanted to be an extrovert, so I was going to fake it till I make it. And a lot of introverts do this. A lot of introverts fake it until they make it, but they never make it. There was a study that showed that 1/3 to half of the population are introverts. That's every 2 to 3 people are introverted, but they're faking it as an extrovert, which means even our most charismatic leaders might be faking it. Now, I'm not talking about being shy. A shy is a fear of social interaction. What I'm talking about is the difference between extroverts and introverts is how we're stimulated. An introvert like myself finds more stimulation in quiet, low-key settings, where an extrovert is going to find stimulation in loud and crowded spaces. I think of it like a battery. When it comes to social interaction, introverts tend to lose their battery the more that they continue in large group settings, where extroverts seem to recharge their battery. We're conditioned, our society teaches us that we need to be more extroverted. Our workspaces are more open concept. Our schools are pods of desks, 4 or 5 desks pushed together to encourage teamwork, even in solo activities like math or creative writing, where you would think autonomous thinking would be more important. We're told that we need to be able to work together. And don't get me wrong, I think group work is very important, but we also need to remember how important it is to allow the introverts their time alone, to give them the freedom to be more creative without the other hubbub and other ideas being thrown at you, because we tend to lean toward the man of action. We tend to mimic the loudest person in the room, sometimes even without thinking about it. We want to follow the most charismatic person, the person with the most magnetism. We want the person that's going to convince somebody. Even though studies show that introverts have these qualities, they just may take some more time to get to it. They may be more convincing than an extrovert because they've given the time and effort and run different scenarios in their heads that allow for a better outcome. Leaders that are introverts tend to be more careful when it comes to decision making, but also allow for more creativity because the extroverts that are giving their ideas, all of them are considered instead of the loudest one. When it comes to drag, I don't like bars. I don't like crowded spaces with a bunch of people. That's not where I like to be. And it's very difficult because that's where drag takes place a lot of the time. I prefer drag in a theater. I like a solo performance. Performing drag is still fantastic because even when I'm performing in that crowded space, it's because I'm displaying my art, my creativity. Getting into drag is what I enjoy because I love to have that freedom to express myself through my makeup, through my costuming, through my wigs. I get to have that freedom. Convincing myself to start getting ready for getting into drag is probably the hardest part because I think about the social interactions that I have to have, the meet and greets, the talking with people, the taking pictures. That part is exhausting. That part drains my battery. And I have to remember that being a drag queen is more than just that. I'm there to inspire people. I'm there to be the expert on self-expression. I'm there to show that you can be creative without having to follow the masses. By allowing myself the freedom to be creative and not be afraid of whatever the makeup I'm doing. To give myself permission to try something new that I wouldn't dare to if I was trying to follow the loudest person. If I was trying to ape whoever said that drag is done one way, if I was trying to do what they're doing, I wouldn't enjoy drag. I wouldn't enjoy being Lacey. Teamwork is important. We do need to come together to solve problems, but we need to allow introverts the time to think about them. Let's give everybody some chance to go off on their own, think of their ideas, and come together to share their ideas. We need to remember that being alone is not a bad thing. We need to allow ourselves the freedom to express ourselves by ourselves, and not just with everybody. Be kind to one another.